This video is not going to be about tips, tricks, hints, hacks about how to deal with your pathological demand avoidance or demand avoidance. No, this video is going to be about how to make demand avoidance your bitch. It just got real.
Oh, wow.
Howdy, welcome to the Autistic Page. I am David Page. I am a PDA or Pathological Demand Avoidance Profile Autistic and ADHD. I pretty much always had this philosophy to try to do your best to make your weaknesses into your strengths. Make your weaknesses somehow work for you. Turned into a fat kid. I was up to about 220 pounds. Usually, like right now I'm at 160. I put on quite a bit of weight and I decided I wanted to lose weight. My desire was to lose weight. So what did I do? Well, I made myself a diet plan. I called it the Don't Eat Everything in Front of Your Face diet. The rules were very simple. I could have anything I wanted to eat, whenever I wanted, and as much as I wanted. I took away the demand completely. Now, my desire was to lose weight, but there was no demand on losing weight in my own mind. I lost 40 pounds in a month. Just ate a little bit all day long. A banana, I take a bite, and it'd take me an hour or two to eat a banana. There was no demands on me to lose weight, so I didn't care. It wasn't a big deal. I could do it, and it was very easy. So using this methodology by taking away all demands, the PDA just doesn't have much to do. Let's talk about how I learned to reduce my demands to just one demand. I learned very young. I was actually 17 when I was in the Navy. One of the biggest lessons I learned was actually in running. We'd have to run like 5 miles or whatever. And what I learned to do was to look ahead up on the road for maybe a road marker. And I would just run to that, maybe, 100 feet in front of me. And as I got close to that, maybe 10, 15 feet away, maybe 20, I would look down the road for another road marker. Maybe there was a stop sign or a rock or a telephone pole. All I had to do was just run to that one thing. I didn't have to run 5 miles. Only had to run 100 feet at any given time. So I reduced the overwhelming demand of having to go run 5 miles to one demand of just make it to this next object. And I was able to successfully keep myself going. And I took that even further to the point where when I got in a situation, I learned to actually dive into a given situation. Say it's a social event or something. I learned that if I was going to have no choice but to interact with these people, as soon as they showed up, as soon as I got in that situation, I would force myself to immediately jump into it. I would go introduce myself. Hey, I'm Dave. How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And get the hell out. Yes, I would complete withdrawal after I worked the room and try to be invisible. But the thing is then it was much easier for me to deal with that social situation because I had already dealt with all the demands of the socialization with all these people. Now I could just kick back, and if something came up, if someone addressed me or whatever, I could just deal with that, but not be overwhelmed by trying to deal with everything in the room all at once. Once again, I reduced my demand to just one thing. This person's talking to me, just talk to that person. Only worry about talking to that person, nothing else. And this is a little bit more difficult or more easily said than done. It's something that you have to learn to do. Now, since I was diagnosed at 51 as autistic, I didn't even know I was autistic, but these are the ways that I learned to deal with these things. One time I was at a cliff with a buddy of mine. He was actually a business partner. And he's like, let's go cliff diving. I don't want to go cliff diving. That's crazy. I hate cliff diving. I hate heights. They terrify me. So we get out there and walk up to the edge of this cliff and look down at the water. And he's like, okay, well, you got to dive right down to this area here. And that's the safe area. And I was like, okay. And I just turned around and stepped off the cliff right then and there. The reason is I didn't want to stop and think about it. I didn't want to get myself worked up. I needed to address that demand, get it done with, or I could potentially become paralyzed and remain up on the top of that cliff without ever diving. And that was not the impression that I wanted to give this fellow. It was my business partner. I wanted him to know that I was a go-getter, that I would face my peers, and that I would do what needed to be done. And so that's what I did. When I first learned to rappel in the military, when I was training with the Marine Corps, they had this tall tower, and on one side there was this wall, and you were just supposed to rappel down this thing. And then the other side, there is nothing. You just rappelled into midair. So what did I do? I climbed up on that tower, and instead of going to the side that I was supposed to, the easy side, I went to the hard side. There was a simulated skid from like a Huey on the edge of this tower, and I literally got hooked up and just jumped back onto the skid. And this Marine looked at me and says, "That's the ballsiest mount I've ever seen." I looked at him and laughed and jumped. And about halfway down, I stopped myself, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to overcome this. I'm going to do this. So I turned upside down and started messing around and stuff like that, and then finally I rappelled all the way down. Then I went to the easy side, and that was nothing for me. So it's by facing these demands head on and making it one demand. I didn't worry about going up on both sides of the tower, what I was going to do. I worried about getting up to that one place, getting on that skid. Once I was on that skid, it was time to jump. One demand, one thing for me to concentrate on. And that is how I've learned to deal with PDA. The lesson here is, first of all, if you can, reduce things to no demands at all. If you can possibly trick your brain, if you can figure out a way to do it. If not, reduce it to one demand, one thing that you have to do. Let's say I'm just having a hell of a time doing dishes. There's been times where I've been in bed and been like, okay, put one foot on the floor, put another foot on the floor. Okay, I can get dressed. Okay, I can walk to the living room. I can make it to the kitchen then. Now I can make it to the dishwasher, and so forth. Just one thing. I didn't worry about cleaning up the whole damn kitchen. I worried about one little thing, one dish at a time. So I would like to know how you have made demand avoidance your bitch. How have you dealt with it in such a way that you owned it, that you actually made it work for you? You see, when I went into those social situations and so forth, yes, I'm PDA, and we tend to do a little bit better in social situations, but I still don't like them. But by jumping in there, people thought I was a real go-getter. No, not at all. I didn't even want to be there. So I was able to fool not only myself, but everyone else. And this is masking. It is literally masking. It is demand avoidance extreme, because you were avoiding every demand possible. So do that. Make that work for you. Avoid those demands whenever you can. Make it only one. Make it none. Just do it. This is David Page. Screw them. Flop harder.